Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of full council. I am Councillor Justin Wrench, Chairman of the Council, and I'll be chairing this meeting this evening. Before we start tonight's business, please can I remind everyone that this meeting is being broadcast via the Council's YouTube channel. Please can everyone ensure that their mobile phones and devices are switched to silent to avoid any disruptions. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, and I would be grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issues being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please can you indicate by clearly raising your hand. Please note that we are not expecting a fire alarm this evening. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. I will now proceed to the first item of business, agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies of absence from Councillor Alt, Councillor Beavis, Councillor Rajiv, Councillor Wendy Taylor and Councillor Paul Thorogood. Are there any further apologies to note? Thank you. Thank you, members. So we will now proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. So do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or non-registrable interests that they wish to declare this evening? If so, please state the item and the nature of your interest. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 6, I attend the Waste Site Liaison Group for the incinerator. It's a non-decision making body set up for parish councils and the district council to receive information about it.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. The same, actually. I am the BDC representative on the Rivenhall Incinerator Liaison Group in my capacity as a Cabinet Member for Planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Chairman. As part of my role of county, I am a member of the DNR committee that make decisions on this, so I will leave the room and not take part in the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. As per previous councillors, I'm on the liaison group non-decision making as through Coggeshall Parish Council.
Thank you. Councillor Schreer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Disclosable pecuniary interest and function was my role with Essex County Council.
Thank you. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 6, I'm a non-remunerated director of Parishes Against the Incinerator.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, same as most of the people, which just did a interest. I'm on the liaison committee at the Rivenhall Incinerator.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you, members. If there are no further declarations, we will now proceed to agenda item 3, which is minutes from the previous meeting. So we're asked to approve the minutes of the annual general meeting of full council held on the 28th of April 2025, which have been circulated to all members and published on the council's website. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record?
Chairman, there's a couple of typos.
Okay.
Number 2, well, not so much, well, one's a typo, one's probably inappropriate wording. The Chief Executive gave few words in appreciation of Councillor Walters.
Okay.
Said a few words.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And then halfway down that paragraph, was too clear to. And then on the list of full council meetings, it says the 1st of July. That's incorrect. It should be the 21st of July.
Okay, thank you. We'll make those amendments.
Subject to those amendments being made.
Yes, so subject to those amendments being made, could I seek a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Butland. And can I please seek a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. So as the minutes have been moved and seconded as an accurate record, all those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, members. The minutes are approved. I'll just now take a couple of minutes just to sign those. Thank you very much for your patience. We will now proceed to agenda item 4, which is public question time. So we have no registered speakers this evening, so I'll proceed to the agenda item 5, announcements and statements from the Chairman and the Leader of the Council. So members, it is with deep sadness that I start my announcement this evening with the news that a former district councillor, Patrick Horner, sadly passed away this morning. Patrick was a well-respected member of this council, having been a councillor between 2011 and 2023, a total of 12 years. He was an active member of the Planning Committee and he knew every square acre of the district from his period in the state agency, and he certainly knew who owned it. He was a very sociable man who loved to talk, and he definitely could. He was involved in many community events and was a great supporter of all things Witham. As a long-time resident, and there was the council's appointed representative of the Witham United Charities for 5 years. He was also the town mayor for Witham in 2016-2017. Patrick was a wonderful activist and supporter of the local party. At every event, he was there. He supported Janet Money as chair of this council during his first year as a councillor, and Patrick was a regular in the members' room, and he once fought a one-man battle recruiting Nicola Beach, chief executive at the time, to save the members' room printer in about 2016, which, as a man who preferred a notebook and pen, did bring about some light-hearted questions and comments. This council will circulate details of the funeral arrangements to members if they are provided, and on behalf of the council, I wish to give Patrick's family and friends our condolences. So members, since my election at the AGM in April, I am pleased to report that I've attended 9 engagements on behalf of the council. My first event was the Jack Petchey Speak Out Challenge North Essex Regional Final, held at Notley High in Braintree. This fantastic initiative gives Year 10 students the opportunities to develop their public speaking skills. I was delighted to witness such confidence and passion from the young people involved, skills that will serve them very well in their futures. I had carefully prepared a speech. Just a week earlier, I had chairman training. I was always told to have a speech ready, and I carefully wrote that out. However, as you can imagine, after watching 15 incredible, inspiring, and frankly far better speeches by the finalists, I realised I was completely outclassed. So I did what any well-respecting adult would do. I folded up my script, stuffed it in my suit pocket, took a deep breath, and just hoped that I wouldn't be the weakest speaker of the evening. I also had the pleasure of attending Housestead Marathon, a well-organised event thanks to the efforts of Housestead road runners and many local volunteers. Despite the challenging heat, myself and Councillor Monday, we just about survived it, but the day had great community spirit and the runners showed incredible resilience. A standout moment was Mohammed El Bayan breaking the course record with a phenomenal time of 2 hours, 28 minutes and 8 seconds. Housestead is notably quite well known as being one of the most challenging marathon courses due to the hills of the town. So his performance was so inspiring, and I must admit I felt quite exhausted just watching from the sidelines. So in support of Dementia Awareness Week, I also attended 2 really meaningful events. Firstly, a dementia-friendly cream tea at Braintree Town Hall and a visit to the Home Instead information stand at Braintree Village. Both engagements highlighted the vital work that is being done to support those living with dementia and raise community awareness. I was also honoured to attend the Mayor's civic events in both Housestead and Witham, and I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Councillor Monday on being re-elected as Mayor of Housestead for his 4th term and his 2nd consecutive term. And I warmly also congratulate and welcome Councillor Heath in the newly appointed Mayor of Witham. I wish you both all the best in your roles for the year ahead. It has been a privilege to represent the council at such a variety of events, each showcasing the dedication and spirit of our local residents and organisations. I look forward to continuing to serve and support our community in the months ahead. Thank you, members. Councillor Butland, would you like to make any announcements this evening?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure you and I would both, first of all, like to welcome Councillor Abraham back to the Council Chamber after his absence. It's a delight to see him there, and welcome back. And it's nice that you're back with us. Chairman, I just wanted to make one short announcement, which is to update members on the Greater Essex Devolution Priority Programme. At our March meeting, Chairman, we considered a report which provided an update in relation to local government reorganisation following the government's English devolution white paper, which was issued in December 2024, in readiness for the submission of an interim plan to government, which happened on the 21st of March. I said in March that before submitting any preference for a particular option for LGR, it would be important to ascertain the views of the wider membership, as well as all relevant information and evidence to support our understanding on the implications against a range of factors, including financial implications, relationships with communities, economic corridors, and the impact on key services. Since March, Chairman, significant work has been undertaken to build a shared evidence base across the 15 councils in Greater Essex. 2 business cases are now in development, and for simplicity we call them Business Case A and Business Case B. Business Case A reflects the choice of 10 councils to pursue a 5 unitary model and is being led by Southend-on-Sea City Council, and Business Case B is being led by Essex County Council, and work is currently underway to complete a full options appraisal in order to agree what number and configuration of unitary councils will be put forward to the government. Braintree District Council is involved in the development of both business cases. As I said to members, I wanted to see the whole of the information, and I know you as members will want to know exactly what the position is before making a decision. So we are involved in the development of both business cases and participating in a number of work streams, both at the whole system level, such as procurement, and on specific outcome areas within each business case. Our Chief Executive, Dan Gascoigne, is also leading on the development of proposals for public service reform and the options appraisal process. Of course, it's not just local government reform, there is also devolution. And on devolution, a steering group, chaired by the leader of Southend-on-Sea City Council, is overseeing a number of work streams led by the upper tier of councils, who will be the constituent authorities in the Greater Essex Combined Authority. The next all-member briefing on devolution in LGR is planned for the 17th of June, when we will be able to share more information and answer any questions members might have. So that is the up-to-date situation at the moment, Chairman, on LGR. And both, I say both, no, not both, ourselves, Colchester and Tendring are participating in the development of both business cases. Because whatever happens, whatever model comes up, the 3 of us are likely to be in whatever configuration comes about. So we are participating in the development of all. It's a pity, really, that in my view, that we aren't all working on the development of them, but we are where we are. Each council is clearly entitled to its own view and how it wishes to tackle it. But I just want to assure members that as far as ourselves and our 2 nearest neighbours in terms of likely partners in any configuration model, we are working closely together, and our chief executives, Ian Davison, Pam Donnelly and Dan Gascoigne, and their teams are also working very closely together as well. So as more develops and we get more indication from the county-led as to what their final thoughts are in terms of the number, I will continue to report to ministers. In the meantime, I have been copying members with any letters that I have received from Minister McMahon or other government ministers as information has either been given to us or required from us. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland, for your update this evening. So, members, we will now deal with agenda item 6, motion by Councillor Abbott, development of a waste incinerator at Rivenhill Airfield. I'll just wait a moment for those members who've stated that they will leave this evening's meeting to have the opportunity to do so. So following the publication of this report, as set out on pages 5 to 6 of the agenda, an amendment to the published motion was received in accordance with the Council's procedural rules. Councillor Abbott and Councillor Walsh, the proposer and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a consequence of this acceptance, the amended motion is now the substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, please can I remind you that an addendum report setting out the amended motion was published and circulated to all members on Friday the 30th of June 2025, and we will be referring to the amended motion report for the debate. Councillor Abbott and Councillor Walsh, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are both present this evening, and so this motion may now proceed. Councillor Abbott, please can you formally move your motion before you make a speech? It must be seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the motion as set out.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Walsh, you're recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please can you confirm that you second this motion and also state if you wish to reserve your right to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I do second it, and I would like to reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Abbott, you are now able to speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll speak directly to the substantive motion as it is set out. First of all, we were happy to accept the Labour Group amendment, and I'd like to thank them for their cooperative working on this issue. So the first paragraph says, Council shares the concerns of many local communities about the development of an incinerator at Rivenhill Airfield, which is proposed to burn all of the grey bin waste in the County Authority area, following the award of contracts by Essex County Council to the site operators. And just to put some numbers on that, that's more than 300,000 tonnes of waste per annum, all of it being brought into the site on HGVs. That is potentially 404 HGV movements per day, every working day, and in these current applications, the applicants are also asking for increased lorry movements at weekends and bank holidays. Council notes that even while the incinerator is scheduled to start waste burning in August 2025, more changes are being sought via planning and permit applications that extend uncertainty as to whether the agreed recycling elements of the facility will be built. So Essex County Council awarded the Essex contract even while the plant remains unfinished, even while it entertains yet more applications to change it as the local planning authority for waste, a process of what we locally would call goalpost moving that's been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Council further notes that the changes being applied for have the potential to increase impacts on the rural landscape, environment and on local village communities. I won't go through all of them, they're detailed in the penultimate paragraph of the motion, but just to add that many years ago the vicar of Rivenhill said, we don't want this rural area being famous for a chimney. Well, we've already got one, and as I'll come on to in a minute, we may end up having 2. Council therefore agrees to oppose the planning applications, numbers set out, and also to submit a call-in request such that these could be determined independently of Essex County Council. That's the main action that we're asking this council tonight to do, to make a stand and send a clear message. Penultimate paragraph, Council agrees that this is necessary in order to challenge the planning creep at this site, which includes longer working hours, the use of a second access via an unclassified road, which could mean more lorries through Kelvedon, Silverend and Rivenhill up to 7.5 tonnes, higher noise levels at night, and the dropping of the no visible plume condition, which actually is exercising a lot of local people, and the potential for a second chimney stack and future increases in HGV movements. I won't go through all the other changes that have taken place over the years, but these latest changes also include discharging fluids to the River Blackwater and the potential for more light pollution. And in the final paragraph, commensurate with Braintree District policies that support significantly increasing the levels of recycling, Council will also request a phasing timetable for the introduction of recycling facilities at the site. So this council very recently at Cabinet has agreed ambitious recycling and previously we've agreed specific targets, and is set to invest millions of pounds in recycling, with the very important aim, as the government also supports, of recycling more, and ideally we might even get to 70%, which is something some of us have been campaigning on for a very long time. Our own policies and documents set out that waste minimisation and then recycling and composting are preferred as higher options on the waste hierarchy, and yet Essex County Council has embarked on going in opposite direction in its overt support for the incinerator. Burying or burning waste should be the last resort. They are resources which we should be protecting, not getting rid of in inverted commas. And there's now a push on over the years and the decades ahead to recycle far more in terms of recyclable packaging and waste minimisation. Many big companies are going in that direction. So committing this county and this specific district to decades of sending huge quantities of waste to be burnt makes absolutely no sense. And it also makes no sense in terms of climate change. Even if they manage to capture 10 to 15% of the carbon, which they say they're going to do, that still leaves 500,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide being emitted to the atmosphere every year. And finally, as the motion says, we need commitments on what actually they intend to build. So in the final line it says about the phasing timetable. When this plant was originally given planning consent in 2010, after an inquiry in 2009, it was described as an integrated waste facility to have recycling, anaerobic digestion, materials recovery, and importantly a paper pulping plant, which was to take heat and steam to provide a combined heat and power facility. As things stand, this plant will start operations in August, with none of those having been built. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbots. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Councillor Staines? Yep.
I support this cross-party substantive motion, in particular a request to call into the Secretary of State to determine these applications independently from the First Tier Planning and Minerals and Waste Authority, because the proposed site operations now bear so little resemblance to the original application, which was for a smaller, local integrated waste management facility, which was, of course, itself a material variation on the original condition to restore the former gravel works to farmland. Essex residents living near existing or future gravel works across the district and beyond will watch our debate with interest. They may consider how this cohort of potential Greater Essex Combined County Authority representatives can work together to uphold planning conditions for formal gravel works designed to support local community recovery, value and enhance scarred landscapes, and address traffic and environmental concerns in the face of conflicting commercial speculation. Many residents will also be watching to ensure that all current and future council waste contractors comply with conditions to recycle as much material as possible before incineration, supporting this council's goals and reflecting the overwhelming public support shown for more recycling in the recent curbside collection consultation process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Next I have Councillor Finch.
Thank you. I would just like to say this motion has my full support. Out of a principle to our residents within the district, many of whom understandably are still expressing worries and concerns about what's to come with the current plan. And this is after years of development, planning and consultations. To start allowing loopholes to be found and pushing for planning changes before having anything up and running is wrong, especially with such a large-scale project that has been impacting a lot of people's lives before it's even started. What does that say about our system? Where does it lead to next? If the applications go through without us even trying to intercept, for all the reasons mentioned this evening and more, I feel it sets a poor precedent to our communities, as well as a disregard and a mockery of the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finch. Next I have Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to support the motion as it is, because just last week we got the official figures that for the first time in 23-24, as a country, we actually burnt more waste than we did anything else with it. And as the government states that for far too long we have allowed our recycling levels to stagnate, and basically it's through laziness. And I mean, there's very difficult more polite word to put it. And so we need to ensure that we are doing everything to get our recycling rates back up, as been said at many briefings that we've had on this subject. And the way to do that is to stop making it so easy to put it in the bin. Let's bring back deposits on bottles. Let's have milk bottles on the doorstep, and let's do something to leave a better planet than what we inherit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Councillor Ayton.
Thank you, Chair. It occurs to me that since this whole situation of the incinerator has been going on since before I was born, and has been beset with controversy since the beginning. We opposed it since its inception, and many of the same concerns raised then are now being raised now. With the incinerator being built, local residents obviously have the right to the best conditions, and in light of the recent planning applications by Endeavour, I have a few questions as to how that's going to be met. Why, for instance, are Endeavour wanting to extend operating hours? Why are Endeavour now wanting to use Woodhouse Lane, an unsuitable country road for site access when there is already ample dedicated access off the A120? They want to bring in more waste to this site. I think that's probably because we all know, unlike landfill, which has a life expectancy, a lifespan, incinerators have to be fed constantly to make money. Therefore, we're going to get assurances regarding HGV movements to the site. And then on top of everything, we have they want to take out the no smoke, no plume clause for the 35-metre high tower. I could go on, Chair, and frankly, all these new requests should have been in the original application. So will the Council ask these questions of Endeavour through Essex County Council? And if the County Council is unable to do so due to a perceived conflict of interest, let's say, will the Council ask the Secretary of State to step in? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ayton. Councillor Spray.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It was in February 2020 when this council voted against the development of the Rivenhall incinerator, and that was in response to a motion put forward by Councillor Abbott. And we passed this motion as a statutory consultee because in the matter of the incinerator, this council is not the deciding planning authority, that's Essex County Council. But it was a good motion and there were very sound reasons for supporting it at the time. Amongst them were the reduced height of the stack, which we felt would impact adversely on local air quality, the number of HGV movements along nearby country roads in order to access the site, and the impact of the development on the local rural landscape. The incinerator was, however, as we know, granted permission. It's been built and will shortly be operational. As Councillor Abbott has already said, I understand the first firing will be in August, so not very far off. It was with dismay over the intervening years that we've seen all the recycling intentions associated with the incinerator fall by the wayside, leaving just the incinerator to operate. There have been and continue to be multiple applications submitted by Endeavour to vary the original planning application or to vary conditions. But turning to the subject of this debate, the motion, I am a bit surprised that the original motion submitted by the ING group came forward as it was, because it's frankly poorly worded, and the amended motion, now the substantive motion, which was submitted by the Labour group, is not very much better. And that's for the following reasons, Chairman. This authority does not have the power to exercise a call-in direct to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. And in this case, that's Angela Rayner. It is possible to refer applications to the National Planning Case Unit to investigate for a call-in, but that's not what the motion states. And in any case, for a Secretary of State call-in, were it possible, you have to give the reasons for a call-in. You have to demonstrate them clearly, such as that it may conflict with national policies, could have significant effects beyond their immediate locality, or give rise to substantial cross-boundary issues, and the motion before us this evening, as written, does not address those issues, and they're not included. The request that the current applications are dealt with independently of Essex County Council. Now, whilst these are perhaps understandable, because I know they're born out of frustration, it's just that in the motion, it's a request. It's not a sound enough reason on its own for a call-in to the Secretary of State, even if this council was able to do so. Finally, and perhaps most importantly given the circumstances, if this motion is passed this evening as it stands, it has a very real potential to compromise the council's discretion to be a statutory consultee on the incinerator and any future associated site developments. And it could interfere with the ability of our planning officers to give unbiased, professional responses to applications as a statutory consultee. And it's for those reasons, Chairman, and those reasons alone, that it is with great regret that this group cannot support the motion this evening, because it does not stand up to scrutiny. However, I will offer this. BDC officers will be writing to Essex County Council advising that they are minded to refer the application to the National Planning Casework Unit for a call-in. That correspondence will be referred to me as the Cabinet Member for Planning for review before it's sent. I think that is the correct route to take, and it's for planning reasons, not for political reasons, for planning reasons, and it's by officers. And I do think it demonstrates that this local authority is mindful of and supportive of residents' concerns about this scheme, as it always has been. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Walsh, having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
I do, thank you. I think we've had a good debate and I think a fair degree of agreement, certainly on this side of the House. I would like to start by addressing Councillor Spray's comments with the greatest respect. And I appreciate that she said towards the end that officers would write to the case unit suggesting a call-in. On her reservations about BDC has no power to call in, well, we know that. We're just suggesting it, and she seemed to conclude that that was possible. Given the other points you made, the criteria, cross-boundary and other implications, and I noticed you said your reservations were with the greatest regrets, I'm slightly curious, why didn't they come forward as an amendment, and then we could have passed it potentially as a motion reflecting every group in this chamber, not just Independents, Green and Labour. Lastly, I am very pleased that you've suggested contacting the case unit. I do disagree with you on one point with the greatest respect, and I think the tenor of this debate has been evidential, and I think all the reasons expressed by colleagues here and in the Labour group, I think they were all planning arguments. I haven't heard a political argument that I've noticed. I would like to make a couple of other planning points myself, and I'm not going to repeat any that have already been made. One of my concerns about this, and I appreciate the fact that two members opposite have left the chamber because of perceived conflict of interest. I'm not saying they have one, but I think Essex, in a statutory sense, could be said to be conflicted. They have a financial interest as the biggest client, and they've awarded a contract. And planning, as we all know, is a quasi-judicial, supposedly independent process. So I don't know if that's listed, Gabrielle, in the regulations, but Braintree might want to consider that it's appropriate that Essex don't take the decision. Just a few other points that I wanted to make, and then I will complete my remarks, find the right page in my book. We talked about the visible plume, and one of the Labour colleagues here, I have a friend who's a physicist, and he said to me, if it's visible, what's in it apart from H2O? Has there been any assessment of toxicity levels? Has there been any assessment of the health impacts? And as has already been alluded, It started out as an integrated waste management facility. I call it a disintegrated facility. The recycling's gone, the anaerobic digestion is gone, the paper and pulp is gone. I can understand why the paper and pulp has gone post-COVID. We're in a more paperless society, as you referred to in your remarks about a deceased colleague. And also, there's a proposal, as we know, for a very large horticultural facility. And you could say, and I recognise, because planning is benefits versus disbenefits, if we're going to have this facility, which we are, it's built, then yes, use the energy for something like tomatoes. But on the other hand, I'm reminded of an old adage, lipstick on a pig does not make the sow pretty. Is that being used as a reason to have the incinerator? We were told in the original application that the landscape would be restored. Well, that land isn't going to be restored. As Councillor Abbott intimated, in the applications, there's a clause there about possible future proposals. What does that mean? I know the A120 option D, nobody knows if it'll ever happen, and there's no funding for RIS4, and I'm coming to the end, by the way. But there is a dedicated intersection were it to come there. So we could be looking at a substantial level of industrialisation of our precious landscape, and once built on, it won't be unbuilt. So and the final point I'd like to suggest, and hopefully this might get some traction with colleagues, and I do appreciate again what Councillor Spray said about the case units. The test operations will begin in August. It seems to me like a sensible planning consideration if we could have council support to undertake air quality monitoring on the immediate boundary of the sites. Then you would perhaps deal with, does it come from vehicle pollution or industrial pollution elsewhere? And I would imagine that parish councils would be quite interested in that. So given that it's going to go ahead, if we don't get a baseline for air quality, we'll have nothing to compare with the results that will be undertaken by the commercial provider and the Environment Agency, who as we know, have an interesting record. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Abbott, as you now have the opportunity to reply to the speeches, can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening and should not introduce any new matters. Over to you, Councillor Abbott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. Very disappointed to hear what Councillor Spray said. She claimed the motion is poorly worded and does not say why we should support a call-in. Well, I beg to differ, and quite clearly, having the largest industrial waste facility built in Essex, which isn't being built to its planning permission, doesn't include any of the recycling functions which were agreed in the original consent, is a major strategic planning issue and worthy of the government looking at it. She says we can't call it in. Well, we can. I've emailed her and showed her a quote from the government website. Quote, anyone can make a call in. She says that this, if we agree this tonight, it would affect the ability of future officer views on planning applications. But she already said that in 2020 we agreed a motion to oppose the incinerator. So why didn't the Conservative group make that point then? This council was represented at the 2009 inquiry which opposed the incinerator. Why didn't you make that point then? There's no consistency there at all. I don't think this motion does in any way fetter the ability of this council to respond to future planning applications. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I think local communities will take an extremely dim view if we do not pass this motion tonight, and I call for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Do you have 3 members that will be able to support that?
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now pass over to our Chief Executive, Dan Gascoigne, who will call the recorded votes.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Abram.
Yeah, just tell what you want to do.
Yes, please.
For or against?
For, please.
Thank you. Councillor Ayton.
For.
Councillor Bohr.
Abstain.
Councillor Bond.
Abstain.
Councillor Bowers.
Against.
Councillor Butland.
Against.
Councillor Coleridge.
Against.
Councillor Courtauld.
Against.
Councillor M. Cunningham.
Against.
Councillor T. Cunningham.
Against.
Councillor Dervish.
Against.
Councillor Diamond.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
Against.
Councillor Finch.
For.
Councillor Finkin. Councillor Garrod.
Against.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
Against.
Councillor Heath.
For.
Councillor Holland.
Against.
Councillor Hooks.
For.
Councillor Jeffries.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Mason.
For.
Councillor Monday.
Abstain.
Councillor Parker.
Against.
Councillor Pell.
Abstain.
Councillor Prime.
Against.
Councillor Ramage.
Against.
Councillor Ritchie.
Against.
Councillor Spray.
Against.
Councillor Staines.
For.
Councillor B. Taylor.
Against.
Councillor M. Thorogood.
For.
Councillor Van Dalken.
Against.
Councillor Walsh.
For.
Councillor Walters.
Against.
Councillor E. Williams.
Against.
Councillor T. Williams.
Against.
Councillor Wrench.
Against.
And Councillor Wright.
For.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we had 4 abstentions, 16 for and 22 against. So the motion is lost. I'll just wait for the members that are outside the room to make their way back in. Thank you, members. We will now deal with agenda item 7, motion by Councillor Tom Cunningham about the 80th anniversary of VJ Day. So the motion report starts on page 7 of tonight's agenda, and I can confirm that there are no amendments to this motion. Councillor Tom Cunningham and Councillor Butland, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are both present this evening, so this motion may proceed. Councillor Cunningham, please can you formally move your motion, and before you make your speech, this must be seconded.
Mr Chairman, formally move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Butland, you are recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please confirm that you second this motion and whether or not you reserve your right to speak.
Formally second, Chairman, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded. I will now invite Councillor Cunningham to make his speech.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much. I thought it was important, we as a group thought it was important that Council had a motion on this subject to commemorate and acknowledge the wonderful opportunity that the recent VE Day celebrations, the 80th commemoration, was to pay tribute to those who were actively involved in World War II. And I think it's particularly important as we look ahead to VJ Day in a few months' time, because very often the Pacific battle of that conflict is sometimes overlooked compared to the main battle in continental Europe. It was a wonderful opportunity to pay tribute to the greatest generation. Sadly, too few of that generation remain, and it was an opportunity to remember those who are sadly no longer with us, who may have died in the war, but have died in subsequent years. But I think what was most important at this moment in time was the wonderful enthusiasm of all generations to celebrate and commemorate this great moment in history. Mr Chairman, as we sit here today in June 2025, a lot of thought has been given to how we serve and how government serves communities in the future. I think it's important to realise that government does serve communities, but the strength of the communities are down to the people who live there. And today, as a council, once again, we reaffirm our commitment to support communities, to ensure the legacy of Braintree District Council is that of a council that supported all its communities in its district, and that spirit is embedded in whatever successive organisation that may come on stream in a few years' time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? And please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Got Councillor Heath as well. Yeah. I'll start with Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to endorse everything that Councillor Cunningham has just said. The VE Day celebrations throughout the district were superb. They were run mainly by the parish councils with the support of the British Legion in most places who've done a sterling job. And I would also like to thank the communications department of this council that publicised everything, even though at times it reflected a little bit negatively on the town of Braintree itself, because there didn't seem so much going on in our main town. But the turnout for all these events were amazing. It was a not too warm an evening in Whittam, and there was upwards of 2,000 people turned out for it. There was people in this room that don't live in Whittam that were there as well, and it was welcome, and it was great. And as Tom did say, the thing that was drowned through to us was don't forget VJ Day. We're too often the forgotten army in the forgotten war. And there is an event in Whittam on the 15th of August that evening at the Rafa Club with a march as well, if anybody wishes to come to that. But I fully endorse the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heath. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand in full support of this motion. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Whittam Town Council for the great event that they did put on. It's always a pleasure and an honour to march with the community and see such a great turnout at these events. When someone who served 8 years in the Royal Engineers, I've been lucky to spend many evenings with World War II veterans. Well, the pride of that is going over to Normandy with them, walking around the beaches and hearing their stories. And I'll never not be in awe of that generation and the sacrifice they gave for us. However, while I feel there's no other country who does the big events, Remembrance Day, big celebrations such as this, I believe we have so much more to improve on in the way we help veterans and make the Armed Forces Covenant much more than lip service. Whether this be helping families settle into new areas once they leave service, simple things such as registering as GP, or people undergoing medical treatment moving from trust to trust. This year's been a pretty sombre year for me, as this is the year that more friends have now committed suicide since serving than we lost in operations. Veterans don't want a handout, but a chance to succeed once they leave the service. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Hooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wholeheartedly support this motion. Of course, we should continue to pay tribute and honour our veterans of the World Wars or any subsequent wars. I'm pleased to see Braintree District Council reaffirm its commitment to supporting communities in commemorating these significant historic events. There were many fantastic events held across our district. Rain, my own village, had a wonderful programme. Whittam hosted an impressive event, and other towns and villages followed suit. Many, if not all of these, were made possible by the tireless efforts of local parish and town councils and community volunteers. We owe them a debt of gratitude for their dedication and community spirit for supporting our heroes. But this motion also raises an important question. Where was Braintree Town in all of this? While others were lighting beacons, gathering for tea parties and celebrating together, Braintree Town had very little, if anything, on offer. I saw firsthand the frustration of residents who turned to social media and the Braintree Whittam Times, disappointed that nothing had been organised for them. I'm not sure who advised the officer that made one of the responses on behalf of BDC, so my astonishment may need to be redirected, but I was surprised to read, and I quote, "Whittam and Halstead have town councils and the villages have parish councils. Residents within these areas pay a precept on their council tax bill, and this helps fund local events. Braintree does not have a town council, and we believe residents would not want to pay a precept to fund one." I find this deeply troubling. In Rain, we put on 3 activities over 2 days with no cost to residents from the precept. What it took was not money, but organisation, goodwill and a strong sense of community. You do not necessarily need a budget to organise a beacon lighting or a short memorial ceremony. What you do need is a willingness to bring people together, and in a town as significant as Braintree, we should be asking, why is there not a department or dedicated team within the District Council to coordinate such events in areas without town or parish councils? The ING Group does not have any district councils in Braintree, but if we did, I'm sure that we would have used our frontline role like the rest of our group and helped to organise events. Furthermore, we do not know that residents don't want a town council or would refuse to pay a precept. When were they last asked? This kind of assumption only widens the gap between residents and the council, especially with the prospect of local government reorganisation on the horizon. The lack of a town council for Braintree should never inhibit or be the excuse for lack of civic events. If we are truly to support all our communities, we need to recognise the importance of civic pride and shared history in every corner of the district, including the unparished areas. This motion gives us the opportunity to just do that. Let's commit to this motion fully and properly and ensure that all residents, wherever they live, have the opportunity to commemorate, to gather and to honour our heroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to see this motion set before you this evening to acknowledge and commemorate the 80th anniversary of VE Day, a day etched into our collective memory as the moment when, after years of sacrifice, struggle and unimaginable loss, peace finally returned to Europe. I'm pleased to say that in the village of Hatfield Peveril, they honoured this occasion in a way that reflects not only our respect for the past, but our hopes for the future. On the 7th of May, the Parish Council hosted a special afternoon tea party for our senior citizens, those who carry the strongest memories, the stories and the wisdom of those times. Councillor Dervish and I were pleased to use our council community grant to support this event, which helped cover the costs and ensure something memorable and meaningful could be achieved. I would also like to thank those who were involved in organising the event. So today, as we mark 80 years since VE Day, let us remember those who gave so much for the peace that we now enjoy. Let us cherish the generations who lived through it, and let us continue to bring our community together across 80s backgrounds and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chairman. Indeed, we celebrated VE Day at 80 and it was right to do so. Three Fields Ward had a strong and passionate parish council network, and with the local Royal British Legion, a volunteer army was put on varied and amazing VE 80 celebrations. None of the parishes received any financial support from this council. However, the council's social media team did a good job highlighting events throughout the district, especially increasing awareness of more established centres within newer communities. This motion provides an opportunity to remember VJ Day and record thanks for the Commonwealth forces that fought on into September 1945 and their relatives and relations that may now live here from Australia, Malaysia, India, including the Gurkhas, the Philippines, across Great Britain, China and from the United States. While Burma was one of the longest British campaigns of the Second World War, it was also more remote than Europe and as a result, as Councillor Cunningham said, is often overlooked. This evening we can remember those of Braintree and Bocking that fell in the Japanese theatre and also reflect on the terrible conditions endured by many as prisoners of war in Changi and other camps throughout Southeast Asia and their forced labour, most notably on the Burma-Thailand Railway. 7 names are recorded on the Braintree and Bocking Memorial, a location which is so well attended every November on Remembrance Day. George Bending and Norman Gooday, Territorials, and William Reid, sent to defend Singapore against the Japanese before becoming prisoners of war and dying there. Stanley Beer and Thomas McDermott, who fell in Singapore. Peter Douglas died in Johor and Malaya, and Cecil Martin died in Kohima fighting the Japanese. I know we will remember them.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I had planned to stand up and talk a little bit about my family's contribution during the Second World War, all of whom lived in the district, but I think I just need to address Councillor Hooks's words first. I viewed this motion as the chance to celebrate the veterans of that conflict and the sacrifice that they made, but the ING group clearly have seen it as an opportunity to stand up and make a political point. I don't really understand what Councillor Hooks's beef is. I like Councillor Hooks very much. In fact, one of the times that I enjoy talking to her is at church every year on Remembrance Sunday, when we gather at the Braintree and Bocking Public Gardens at a fantastic event that's organised annually in the middle of Braintree to celebrate veterans and their contribution to society. I do think that her attack was uncalled for. My grandfather Richard lost his father in the Second World War. His father was called Jack, and he was killed just a few days after the D-Day landings in Normandy, resupplying troops there on the Normandy beaches. In his memory, Richard would stand outside the Earlscombe Co-op every year selling poppies for Remembrance Day. He sadly passed away last year. My great-grandfather John lived in Halstead and worked for Hunt's, a metalworks that supplied material vital to the war effort, and his brother Alan, who also lived in the district, was captured as a prisoner of war by the German army in the North Africa campaign. He apparently was never quite the same when he returned home. It's stories like these that mark this anniversary as a uniquely special one. As the events of VE Day and VJ Day slip out of living memory, it is we, the successive generations, that must keep their memory alive. The sacrifice that they made is not solely comprised of those that gave their lives, but also those they left behind, the families that lost husbands, fathers and brothers. Residents across the district came together to mark VE Day with a huge variety of events. I look forward to Remembrance Sunday this year, when once again we will gather in Braintree and Bocking Public Gardens to pay tribute to the residents of this district and the sacrifice they made for us to live in freedom. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in brief response to that, can I remind Councillor Edwards that we don't run a group whip or take group views on everything all the time, and our members are free to raise issues as they see fit. So when he said it's a position of the group, it's not, and I actually support the comments that were made by Councillor Hooks. Although it's called Rivenhall Airfield, it's not actually within the parish anymore. But Rivenhall Airfield was built at the latter stages of World War II, and within my time as a councillor, most of it was still there. I used to go on the footpaths around it and learn all about the history of it. Now, unfortunately, Essex County Council has allowed it to become a moonscape. There's hardly anything left of the original airfield, hardly anything left of the original buildings. Various attempts over the years have been made to drum up support for refurbishing what little remains, and despite the vast sums of money being spent on the waste site and the contracts, nothing has been put towards that refurbishment. Perhaps raising it tonight might spark some interest. Although we have had some memorials built, which is good, and I attended the unveiling of one of them. And the reason I raise that is because even in the latter part of the war, many of the crews who flew out of Rivenhall Airfield and other bases in east of England knew that the statistical likelihood of them coming back was not good. A lot of them lost their lives actually over Germany, and I know a lot of German civilians lost their lives as well. But it was an incredibly brave thing to do, to get into those aircraft, which we these days would regard as very ancient indeed compared to modern aircrafts, and to fly over an enemy country with fire coming up at you. And many of them, of course, were very young men. So I thought I'd mention that, and it is a shame that so little has been done to protect or preserve what's left of the airfield. In Rivenhall itself, there's a local group which runs social events, and they did an event for VE Day. And also, in our small way, the parish council, we are, and I'm helping to volunteer for this, we're doing up the garden that surrounds the War Memorial to bring it back to how it used to be years ago, and that's looking very nice now, if anyone wants to have a look at it. And finally, a great tradition for fly pasts, and this one was a particularly important one, obviously, is that the planes that go down to fly over Buckingham Palace, they start to gather pretty much over Rivenhall, and we gather at the northern end of the village to watch that, and the weather was really good this year. And I think they follow the line of the railway line, or it might be the A12, which are more or less the same line, down to London. And this year, incredibly, I was standing next to who's a military veteran, obviously not from that era, but he's getting on a bit. And he said, look behind you, and as we turned round, there was a Lancaster bomber doing a circle in the sky because he was waiting for the jets to catch up, because obviously they fly much, much slower. So that's a tradition we hold every year. So yes, all of this I know is deeply ingrained in every one of our local communities, but I thought I'd give you a little flavour of how it is in Rivenhall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something in response to what I regard as an important motion. I would firstly, perhaps parochially, like to congratulate the communities across the Stour Valley ward that I represent for the wonderful VE Day celebrations that were organised in all of our parishes. They took place in village halls, churches and around beacon fires. They all had one thing in common. They were celebrating, in the manner of our culture, the end of a war to preserve our way of life and indeed our culture. Mr. Chairman, it's worth noting that those who served to deliver victory in Europe warrant our thanks as members and officers of Braintree District Council, because had they failed, we would surely not be sitting here tonight taking part in the democratic process that governs our society. That process is based on values that have been hard fought for, both before, during and after the Second World War. Now, I'm sure that many members in this chamber, and ones certainly of my generation, have family and perhaps parents who served in this great endeavour, the culmination of which we have been celebrating on the 80th anniversary of VE Day. My father served in the RAF in the Far East, flying on long-range bombing raids. He survived, but bore the psychological scars of his service all his long life. And so I am looking forward to VJ Day celebrations that are being planned for August in the parishes and villages of my ward as being of particular relevance to my family. I will embrace celebration, but I will also think of the price. I'll also think of our obligations. VE Day and VJ Day celebrations are joyous community occasions, and rightly so. But I believe it's incumbent on all of us sitting in this chamber to continue the work done by those who made the first VE Day possible, to protect and enhance the way of life, the culture and the values that they fought to preserve 8 decades and more ago. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holland. And I have Councillor Mary Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman. I really enjoyed hearing the speeches from other members. I think Councillor Edwards hits at a very good point that we all have stories in our families, and these stories pass down from generation to generation. And I think that's one of the ways that actually we can continue to get that message out. I know that I remember my parents telling their grandchildren their stories, and hopefully that's instilled in them the same interest to pass them on. I was a bit disappointed to hear actually that Braintree District Council wasn't supportive of Braintree as a town. I think it's been alluded that it's a parish council, community groups, school groups that actually get together to arrange these community events. Braintree District Council's resources were put into supporting those community events by means of communication, by the media, putting on Facebook, putting on the Braintree website. There is a whole list of events that were supported by the council. Not just that, it was also community services were giving advice on organisations who wanted to arrange street parties, how to go about if they wanted to close off a street, to support with the administration of that. Our licensing team to support those who might need temporary event notices. So plenty of work was done by the council. It might be that actually, because Braintree doesn't have a town council, that we're not getting to hear about those events, but actually looking, if you Google, there were events going on in Braintree, and Braintree Council were supporting them. So thank you for that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mary Cunningham. So, Councillor Butland, having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to speak now?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to add one thing to draw attention to those who lived through that time. I'm from Plymouth. Members will know that Plymouth took quite a hammering during the course of the war with the naval dockyard there and German attacks. And I would like us not to forget, only because my father was one of them, people who served in the fire services, etc., through that time in very dangerous conditions, etc., simply too old to fight, but still were doing it. And I'm sure we will remember them, and I don't know enough, but I'm sure there are other places. I know Coventry, where I lived for a while, was a similar sort of place, that we also remember those in the community who served their community at home, whilst others were quite rightly serving the community abroad. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland. Councillor Cunningham, you may now reply to the speeches, but please, similar to as I reminded Councillor Abbott earlier, please your responses confined to the speeches you've heard this evening, and please do not introduce any new matters. Thank you.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to rise to and bring the debate to a conclusion. And I would say it's a debate, it's been a collective reflection on the VE Day celebrations, a look ahead to the VJ celebrations later on this year, and I think it's been done in extremely good spirit on the whole. And I want to thank the contributors, Councillor Heath for starting us off. I would like to just particularly acknowledge Councillor Hayes' contribution. When reflecting on the World War II, we're very mindful that the greatest generation didn't have a choice to serve. Now, it's very easy for some of us of younger generations to rise to our feet and offer commemorative statements who have not taken the opportunity to serve in the forces. So I think when tributes are made by those who have taken the opportunity to serve, they're ever more powerful, and particularly when they reflect on the current concerns and worries of those servicemen and women who have served their country and the need to ensure they have a better future. So I think pay particular tribute to Councillor Hayes' contribution in his own service this evening. Thank you very much to Councillor Edwards for his response, particularly his response to Councillor Hooks, which we won't overlook, Councillor Staines, Councillor Abbott's thoughtful contributions, Councillor Holland, Councillor Mrs Cunningham, and Councillor Butland as well in closing the debate, and once again reaffirming, hopefully, this authority's commitment to continue to support its communities. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. We will now take the votes. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favour for the motion, please indicate. Okay, thank you very much, members. That is unanimous, and the motion has been approved. So we will now deal with agenda item 8, questions to the Leader and Cabinet. During this item, you may only ask one question to the Leader and the Cabinet members on matters which relate to their functions, the powers and duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the districts. Questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, and supplementary questions are not permitted. I will allow some explanation if it is necessary, but I will contain any long lead-in statements. So we will have 30 minutes for this item. Questions will commence with Councillor Abbott as Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and the order of the remaining questions will remain at my discretion. However, I'll be fair and balanced to both sides. Please, can all members wishing to ask a question this evening now indicate so that the list can be made, and please keep your hand raised until it is acknowledged. Councillor Bond. Mason. Have you got that? Diamond. Hooks. Jeffries. Prime. Edwards. Toby Williams. Ethan Williams. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, if I may ask a question with a district-wide policy but with a local example. At Cabinet this month, a paper was approved on climate change which talked about the Council's support for investing in renewable energy on its own portfolio of buildings, something I strongly support. There was also a report about essential maintenance that was needed doing, including re-roofing Silver End Village Hall. I'm sure members opposite are very pleased I'm mentioning Silver End again, and I will continue to do so. We didn't know this, Councillor Wright and I, but apparently the roof's in a poor condition, needs to come off and be replaced. Will that replacement of that roof be taken as an opportunity to install solar panels on the roof, something that we've been asking for and the Parish Council's been asking for some time, or at least to make the roof strong enough and with compatible conduits, etc., to take a panel array if that becomes possible in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Bowers, are you able to respond this evening?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have an issue with Councillor Abbott raising Silver End again. It'd be nice to actually welcome a £500,000 suggested investment in an asset in Silver End, but we'll wait for that maybe at a later occasion. I think it's worth making the point that where we spend money is considered carefully. As I said at Cabinet on Monday evening, we do spend hundreds of thousands of pounds as an authority in community facilities, from sort of community halls to leisure centres, from, I think I've said, parks and pavilions to cemeteries and windmills and the like. But we do have to consider it carefully. Work needs to be prioritised, and as was also in the Cabinet report, is at this stage the decision was made to take it to the next stage where there will be detailed business plans put forward, business case put forward, where other things will be considered. The point about solar panels has already been considered at one point. There is a challenge in regards Silver End Village Hall, in regards it being a listed building, so that will potentially prove challenges. It's obviously going to require planning permission and the like, but we will review it as we go forward. So it's not definitely a no. I take on board the comments, but we will see how that pans out as we move forward with the suggested projects that was brought to Cabinet. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. The next councillor to ask their question is Councillor Toby Williams.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. On that note, I was delighted to learn that this council is planning to invest a significant sum in a brand new heating system for Witham Public Hall, something that's very much needed and something that is very much welcome. But it's not just Witham, I'm pleased to say, that is benefiting from this community asset fund. Investment is also going into Marks Farm Community Centre, Halstead Leisure Centre, and as Councillor Abbott alluded to, Silver End Village Hall as well, something I'm sure we all welcome in this chamber tonight. Is this evidence? This is evidence, is it not, of this council supporting both rural and urban communities alike, right up and down this district.
Over to you again, Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Williams, for your comments and your questions. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Williams because he did come to me quite a while ago in regards to Whitton Public Hall, in regards to some of the concerns there with the building that we have been looking into at some time, and obviously through this process we've been able to suggest that as one of the assets we would be able to use the funds through the Community Asset Fund. I think, as I also mentioned at Cabinet in regards to the item for the Community Asset Fund, there's been a long sort of detailed process where we have been looking at the asset portfolio, which are the community's assets, in regards sort of the RAG rating, what we've been looking at. One of the things I was very keen and robust with officers is looking about over the whole district in regards where the greatest need is in regards to the RAG rating, and there are reasons why the assets were suggested. But my answer is yes, I agree with what Councillor Williams said. I think this is an example through this process that we are committed to assets and community facilities across the whole of the district, whether it be rural or urban. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you again, Councillor Bowers. Next I have Councillor Ethan Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Following the race review decisions taken last week at Cabinet, I understand that opposition groups have been quick to rush out their own commentary on this to residents. Would the Cabinet member be able to provide some much needed clarity to ensure residents are hearing the full picture and not just the version of political convenience? Thank you.
Councillor Tom Conningham.
Thank you very much indeed. I thank Councillor Ethan Williams for his question. First of all, I'd like to begin in response to that by actually thanking opposition parties for their constructive engagement in the waste review process again. I did it at Cabinet, but I'd like to do that at full council, particularly the group leaders, and for the ING group, Councillor Abbott, for his contribution on that. And I think it shows us a level of consensus and political goodwill. I was a little bit disappointed, I have to say, to read the postings by the Independent and Green Group coming from Councillor Alt and Staines. And there's just a couple of things I'd like to clarify, that apparently the new bins will be funded through £3 million worth of borrowing. That is certainly not the case. There is a capital outlay to fund the new bins. We have to make a change to our service to be compliant with government legislation, and I'd just like to remind colleagues of how that's being funded. There is a total outlay of 4.25 million, but we're receiving an extender producer responsibility payment from government of 1.323 million. Already in our budget book is a recycling reserve of £361,000, which will be used to help fund this expenditure. There's also a plant replacement reserve of £65,000. There is new burdens funding from DEFRA of £125,000 to help us implement this change, therefore leaving a capital allocation from BDC, from balances, not from borrowing. Thanks to sound financial management, we can afford this through our capital programme to ensure we implement these new waste changes and lead to a long-term revenue saving. That figure is £2.376 million. I also read that residents will be told, quote, if they're standard or non-standard, and there will be a comprehensive communication package explaining the standard and non-standard service, and it'll be officers telling residents whether they're standard or not. Well, a comprehensive assessment has been carried out of 44,000 properties as of the middle of May. That excellent work on site with officers going around supporting crews is ongoing. And I think our operational, well, I don't think, I know, our operational service is valuing any community input in terms of any properties that may be outliers, that may be missed in that process, to helping us inform and design the service accordingly. So I think we just have to be a little bit careful in terms of the tone and language we use. I hope that clarifies some errors, and I would respectfully ask if members of the ING group are seeking to update their residence, which I'm sure they will, they might like to take those points that I've made into consideration and perhaps issue an update sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Okay, next I have Councillor Bond. Sorry, I'll re-invite Councillor Bond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's useful that my question relates somewhat to the last motion in that we're supporting every member of our community. And the question to the leader is, do you share the concern and deep regret expressed by Councillor John Spence, Cabinet Member for Children's Services at Essex County Council, that only Harlow out of 12 district councils has yet to sign up to be a foster carer-friendly authority? He also said every leader and chief executive had agreed that they would create a fostering-friendly employment offer. Across Essex, we need 60 more foster carers, each of whom would represent a home to sleep and feel safe for an average of 2 children. Children who, through no fault of their own, have been removed from their home, a child who's already experienced trauma, now facing the uncertainty of being placed with strangers, often far from their community and everything familiar, due to the shortages in Braintree of foster carers. Currently, around 100 children in Essex are living in residential homes, each of which is costing, on average, £30,000 a year. By becoming a foster carer-friendly employer, we would send a strong, clear message that we support our staff who step forward to care for vulnerable children. We would offer practical backing, flexibility, understanding and policies that make fostering a viable option for more people. And we would also be able to use our strong leadership to support the wider business community, which elsewhere has successfully joined in supporting fostering. Can we show leadership in this matter, not just within this council, but in the preparations for any future authority we may be part of, as the cost of these services to our residents and the impact on young people without a local place to live will be more apparent in due course. I soon will have some statistics available from Essex County Council that may be useful in any business case that's required to take this measure forward. I value your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Chairman. With respect, if I could ask Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint to respond, as she is the one who is working on that issue for this council. It was quite a lengthy question, but I think very important raised. So I'll pass over to Lynette Bowers-Flint, if I may, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I declare, members, that I am Deputy Cabinet Member at County of Children's Services, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the county or that position. I'm speaking on the district. And on behalf of Braintree District, this decision will be going to Management Board this week, and I hope that they will be fully supporting this because of all what you've said, Councillor Bond. And I know that you go back a long while with fostering, and your knowledge of fostering is absolutely fantastic. And I hope that members, if they have to make a decision on it, will fully support it because it's a win-win situation for the children and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Next, I have Councillor Jeffress.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, many people have been affected by the collapse of Keynes Mill Bridge last week. Despite some of the things that I've read on social media, I think the work there is progressing well, and hopefully the road will be open by the end of the week. It has, however, caused a lot of congestion, as you can imagine, down Church Lane. Not just, Church Street and Church Lane, but Church Street in particular, especially this week now the children have gone back to school. Not just for motorists, but also pedestrians who take their lives into their hands as they walk up the road and cars are overtaking and climbing onto the road. That's not my question. What has been raised with me, as well as residents coming to me about this, and they appreciate the reasons why there's so much traffic there, but what has been highlighted is that that road has got a 7.5 tonne restriction on it, which seems to be broken all the time. And whether there's anything this council can do to enforce that, particularly with so much house building being done in that area, to help those residents there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tom Cunningham. Or is Councillor Bowers? Thank you.
I'm the Cabinet Member responsible for highways in regards to Braintree District Council, and I will take that up with Essex County Council and hopefully update you soon. Thank you, Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you. Next I have Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question concerns cyber security. Following recent cyber attacks on various organisations, i.e. 2 National Health Trusts within the last week, Marks and Spencer's, the Co-op and Victoria's Secret, which could be embarrassing for some people. Please, can I ask how this council is set up to protect residents' data, etc., from any such threats? And how often are these procedures reviewed? Thank you.
Councillor Bowers, over to you again.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Prime, and thank you for the advance notice of the question, so I've been able to get a more detailed answer, because I think it's a subject that is very important to this authority, and as people will know, looking at our risk register, it is predominantly the potentially the biggest risk to this authority. As we all continue to increase our reliance on technology to deliver services, manage data, collaborate and communicate with each other and other customers, the impact of any cyber security issues increases. Added to this, the type of cyber threat continuously change and develop, as do those who wish to do us harm. Increased geopolitical instability creates a further risk. As a council, we have changes of cyber security measures in place to protect our data and infrastructure. We also work with others at a local and national level to identify and respond to risks, and are actively involved in early warning systems across public and private sector to support us to respond to vulnerabilities as soon as possible. We have regular testing of our systems, both through our own team but also crucially from independent auditing companies, and have achieved Cyber Essentials certification, as well as regularly being tested for compliance against government criteria for public sector networks. In 24-25, we completed a major upgrade of our infrastructure, and in 23-24 we invested in security information and event management tools to help support us to keep our systems and data safe. We also regularly review policies to ensure that they are compliant with the most up-to-date practice in emerging technologies and threats. We do this in conjunction with the Essex Digital Partnership and look to align where possible with our public sector partners. As ever, the most important part of our cyber security defence is everyone that accesses our network, including staff and members. As technology defences become more sophisticated, cyber criminals are increasingly turning to exploit people through social engineering, phishing and other tactics in order to get information which will help them to penetrate our systems. We will never be able to fully mitigate these risks, so we need to remain fully vigilant of them and ensure that we all keep ourselves up to date with training. We also, with attachments we are not sure of, we also need to be careful with anything that we are accessing, including emails, particularly those with attachments we are not sure of, sharing information on websites and even emails which appear to be from our colleagues. If in doubt, please report any issues to our ICT team. They would much rather have a large volume of concerns to deal with than have to respond to a cyber attack and to the damage that could potentially do. This year we will be embarking on a programme to support members, which will include online and in-person training sessions as part of a training package, drop-in sessions for any cyber security questions that members may have, and an online tools to support all of us. I hope this provides members with some reassurance about how seriously we take the protection of our customer data and our systems, but we are mindful that we should not be complacent and need to continue to prioritise this across the whole organisation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Diamond.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the Council for 100,000 passenger journeys on on the new Digigo minibus service. That being said, all has not been plain sailing. With the cutting of key bus routes, the Digigo bus service was intended to fill the gap. However, it has been described by local residents, and I quote, as being wildly unreliable. One elderly resident, let's call her Tracy, now finds herself isolated and effectively trapped at home. What advice would you give to Tracy, who simply wants to remain connected to her community? Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your comments there, Councillor Diamond. Of course, with every service there are some negative comments, but I can assure you there are some very positive comments about the connectivity that Digigo provides to the residents within the districts, and in fact some residents actually find the service invaluable in getting to rural locations, to town centres, etc. Essex County Council are going through a review of the Digigo service, so let's hope they hoover up all some of the negative points as highlighted by yourself this evening. If there is a particular case, then I'm more than happy to take it up on your behalf and reply for you. But on the whole, like I said, as a service, you do get some negative comments, but on the whole, we get some really good comments on the service it provides too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. As a former practising social worker, it's heartening to note this Council's commitment to improving vulnerable people's lives through the Healthy Housing Strategy. I was delighted to see evidence of this in action with an email today inviting me to attend the open day of a new facility for vulnerable adults with learning difficulties, autism and mental health issues in the Braintree and Vickers Green ward. My question is, how will this Council ensure that they continue to focus on the development and maintenance of such properties and reinvigorate those of similar standing which currently lie empty? I'm thinking of that property in Manor Street, which is in my ward, which I understand was previously a Peabody building to support people in the community, as is this new property. I understand that it's been left empty for several years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. I believe that's Councillor Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Mason, you have something that I don't have, an invitation. I don't know anything about it, so well done you. On the second part of it, we look at it all the time because that is one of my biggest concerns. And my biggest concern is the empty properties in this town, including the College House that was the mother and baby unit. That I've been here that long, I opened with Princess Anne. And I know the building that you're talking about as well, and we are looking at that. But trust me, it is always at the top of our list because looking after those vulnerable people is mostly important because they are the people that need the help most. And they are the people that could go all sorts of ways with the challenges in life that they have. So it's important that we look and care after those people. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Bowers-Flint. Next, I have Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chairman. With the good news about the £500,000 that's been secured from the Shared Prosperity Fund, can the Cabinet member elaborate on what kind of schemes this money will be put towards? Having read that some of this will be put towards renewal of some playgrounds, could I make a suggestion that the 3 in Whittam West be considered for some of this investment? Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, we were absolutely thrilled to receive notice of the money for UK SPF and REPF. Not so thrilled that we were told at the 11th hour that we had 11 months to allocate it and receive that money as well. So we're working really hard in the background to get that funding process set up. I think when I presented the Cabinet report urgently last week, there were some really good examples of some of the projects that we have funded through previous UK SPF and REPF funding. With regards to the parks, there was already an allocation to some of the parks across our district. The allocation goes towards some of the parks that have got some health and safety issues with them. They're looked at on a regular basis And of course, they receive a risk rating, so we will look at those that have got some of the kind of higher risk issues with them. However, if there are those in your ward, Councillor Hayes, that you think should be considered for that, I'm more than happy to take that up for you on your behalf. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one brief question to the Cabinet Member for Planning, if I may. As a member of the Local Plan Committee and Coggeshall member, along with Dennis Abram, perhaps she or perhaps officers could expand on the reasons for delaying the Coggeshall call for sites consideration, which was going to take place this Wednesday. And is it possible to indicate now when that will be considered? I believe it was said something to do with officers need more time, but Braintree and Whittam, if not Halstead, were considered. So I'd be curious to know a bit more about why and particularly when we'll get that discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank Councillor Walsh for his question. Yes, I appreciate that it's probably disappointing for ward members and Coggeshall residents that we've had to change the original schedule. We did say when we published it we would do our very best to stick to that, but that there might have to be some changes. My understanding is that around 20 sites have been submitted for Coggeshall as part of the call for sites. Those are the small sites, as we call them, and it simply has not been possible to do all the background work with the officers' reports to bring them forward this Thursday, together with the other key services villages that we are looking at, which is why we've had to make a change. I think I'm right in saying we're aiming to look at the Coggeshall sites in the July meeting, but I will confirm that with officers and we'll let Councillor Walsh know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was made aware via social media last week that an 85-year-old man fell outside of Iceland in Braintree Town Centre owing to an uneven paving slab. I've also been made aware that the area around the Braintree Fountain has been looking rather shabby. Now, I know the Cabinet share my desire to make sure that Braintree looks as good as it possibly can be to make sure that residents have pride of place in our town. But could I ask the Cabinet member responsible to update us on what steps they are taking to remedy both the paving slab issue and to refresh the area around the fountain? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Been a popular man tonight, Councillor Bowers. Over to you again.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question, Councillor Edwards, and I'm sorry to hear about the situation with the gentleman that you referenced. Firstly, on the matter of the fountain, to just cover that part of first of all, whilst it's not our responsibility, BDC have carried out work in the past in the facility. Councillor Tom Cunningham, as the portfolio holder for operations at BDC here, has requested our team to carry out work at the fountain in the upcoming months and is working with other community groups on projects to brighten up our planters and wider pride of place maintenance work across the town centre. Regarding the pavement issue, I'm aware that though paving is under the control of ECC, as is all paving in our town centre, I can confirm that the Highways Cabinet member at Essex County Council, who is the local division member, is working with the Highways Maintenance team at Essex County Council. They have confirmed that the local highway manager is meeting tomorrow with the team and will confirm the timetable for works in Bank Street and High Street and will circulate imminently. This has been successfully reprioritised for urgent action, I'm pleased to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. And Councillor Hooks.
To be honest, my question's been answered, so I won't waste time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hooks. I believe we've captured anybody. Were there any other members that had any other questions that they'd like to raise this evening? Otherwise, that concludes this part of tonight's agenda. So we'll now proceed to agenda item 9, Steeple Bumpstead Neighbourhood Plan Adoption. So members, the report for this item is set out on pages 8 to 13 of tonight's agenda. And please can I invite Councillor Spray, Cabinet Member of Planning, to move the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, I'm very pleased to present this report to Council. The purpose is to seek Council's approval for adoption of this Steeple Bumpstead Neighbourhood Plan. The Parish Council have been working to produce a review of the plan, which, once agreed, can be used in the determination of planning applications within the Steeple Bumpstead neighbourhood area. And my thanks goes to those members of the Parish Council, but also the local community who've contributed towards this document. As I always say, it's generally a relatively small number of people who work very hard within their area to produce these documents, which are, they're quite demanding time-wise, and takes quite a lot of effort. So I'm very, very grateful to them, and also to officers from the planning policy team who've been supporting. So the plan, once drafted, was reviewed by an independent examiner who confirmed that it met the necessary basic conditions and could proceed to referendum. That referendum was held on the 3rd of April this year. 95.4% of those who voted were in favour of the neighbourhood plan. That was 437 votes in total, which was a really good, decisive result. I mean, Steeple Bumpstead itself is only a relatively small place, so that was a very good turnout. And given that result, it is recommended that the Steeple Bumpstead neighbourhood plan is made and forms part of the development plan for Braintree District Council area. That recommendation, Chairman, is on page 8 of the agenda, and I so move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spray. Please, can we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Spray, please, may I invite you to... Do you have anything further to add on this matter?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Okay, so no members have indicated that they wish to speak. Therefore, I will now ask Councillor Garrett, as seconder, having reserved your right to speak, to do so now.
Thank you, Chairman. So you've all got the factual information within the agenda about this plan. But I'd just like to give you just to mention a few things about Steeple Bumpstead briefly. It's a beautiful village in the north of the district on the Suffolk border, with quite a large designated conservation area, protected for its special architectural and historic interest. When I first became a district councillor in 2016, I was soon faced with an abundance of emails from residents who were extremely anxious about a speculative planning application for 65 new homes, having just seen one for 99 new homes refused by this planning authority from the same developer. With the original application, the proactive parish council conducted a survey with residents to understand the strength of feeling about shaping their village. It had a good response, and over 90% of responses were against that particular development, and there were over 300 letters of objection to Braintree Council. A parish councillor told me that this council put up a very strong case in the appeal process, and they very much appreciated the support they received. The inspectorate recognised the valued landscape, which they were particularly pleased about. There should always be a democratic process for any planning application so that those for and against can put their case. And I think those residents in the village, those whose lives and surroundings, which that particular development was likely to impact, firmly showed how they felt about it, and their parish councillors listened. As you know, once agreed, neighbourhood plans can be used in the determination of planning applications within the neighbourhood area. And other developments have since settled into the landscape of Steeple Bumpstead. However, this was the catalyst for a group of parish councillors and residents to begin the process for the neighbourhood plan, which started in 2018. Unfortunately, meetings were hampered by the pandemic, and a couple of people came and went. But there was a strong core of a few people, led by Councillor John Borges, who have remained dedicated and brought the process to its final stage. Councillor Borges praised the support they received from both Braintree Council and Jan Stobart of the RCCE, who he says gave particularly good guidance all the way through. He also spoke very highly of the input from his colleagues, Councillor Barnes, and two residents who offered their expertise and gave up a great deal of their time, one undertaking most of the administrative work and another with their architectural skills. Ultimately, it was the encouragement and support from residents which kept them going through the years it's taken to bring this to this point, which is evident from the results of the referendum held on the 3rd of April. So I am certainly very pleased to second this proposal and to adopt the Steeple Bumpstead Neighbourhood Plan as set out in our agenda this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Spray, as the proposer, do you wish to clarify anything before I put the recommendation to the vote?
No, thank you, Chairman. I think we're good.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Councillor Spray. So, members, the recommendation set out on page 8 of the agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. Okay, that is unanimous. And oh, sorry. So, apologies. All those in favour is. Okay, the recommendation has been approved. Okay, thank you. We'll note your abstention. Thank you. So we'll now proceed with agenda item 10, the employee recognition updates. So the members, the report for this item is set out on pages 14 to 20 of the agenda. And as this item is to note, there is therefore no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. Please can I invite Councillor Tom Cunningham to speak on this matter. Thank you.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much. Very pleased to bring this paper to full council, where we acknowledge over the last civic year those officers who have gone beyond the call of duty and been recognised accordingly. Mr Chairman, it's not an overworked expression to say that we will say it repeatedly, that we are very, very lucky with our officers in this authority. They do a wonderful job. And there's been a spirit of this place in terms of doing a wonderful job that's lasted the whole of the 50-odd years that the authority has been serving the Braintree district. Mr Chairman, you may find the presentation of the report somewhat odd, a little bit of an impromptu game of guess who there in terms of the awards that have been given. Mr Chairman, can I give a reassurance that we will put that right at the next full council meeting, asking the permission of those who have received awards during the last 12 months, if they are happy for their names to go alongside their awards. And going forward, we will bring this on a quarterly basis, updating with a list of officers who have received special recognition. But tonight, I'm delighted to move that Council note the Employee of the Month awards and the Team of the Year awards awarded to employees throughout 24-25 and congratulate those winners very warmly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. Do any members wish to speak on this item? And please keep your hand raised until you've been acknowledged. Thank you. Yeah, we've got Councillor Abbott, Councillor Heath. I'll start with Councillor Bowers-Flint, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just pleased to hear the Cabinet member responsible saying that hopefully the next time we get this report it will have names on it. I think that is the obvious missing item. We used to get this on a regular basis, and to be honest with you, especially to newer members, this will mean absolutely nothing to them because they won't know who these people are. And we want to be seen to be congratulating them, and members can nominate as far as I'm aware, because I have nominated them in the past and I think we still can. And I think it should be shown, our appreciation, because every single member of staff of this authority is valued by every single member in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Yes, agree with that. And from this side of the chamber, we certainly support this report. Just wanted to mention two things. On social media, a gentleman, I use that word advisedly, recently said that council tax was all a con and all it does is to go for the gold-plated pensions of useless council employees who waste their days away. And I went back to him and I said, you have no idea. If you've been in a council for any period of time, you know how much work is put in by the officers, some of which go well beyond what is expected of them in terms of hours commitments, at not least. And the second point I wanted to make was the street cleansing team in September and the list of things they pulled off the A120. I mean, what the council does very much complements what individuals and community groups do. But just to note, you know, when is humanity going to become civilised? I mean, if you look at that list of things which have been left by the A120, but all credit to the staff who took the time out to go and pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I certainly agree. We've got plenty of amazing officers here, so thank you for recognising that. And Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would like to thank Councillor Cunningham for ensuring that we will get names next time, because one of the winners for February was a street cleaning operative in Witham. I'll just say her first name in case she doesn't want to give her full name. It's Sue. She done an absolutely wonderful job, and the feedback we got is that she possibly saved that gentleman's life. So it is something that we do need as a large employer to recognise that we have wonderful staff and we deserve to sing their praises much more than we sing our own. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, thank you. Just before I come back to you, Councillor Cunningham, if one thing I may ask is, I've got, two more people that want to speak on this, but if it would be possible to have some clarification on how we do recommend members of our officers team, because I'm sure there's plenty of members out here this evening that have got officers in mind, and just that process would be good to be clarified. However, I'll now go to Councillor Ritchie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I won't be too long. We spent time this evening talking about our assets that we own as a council, and I think it's absolutely pertinent that we talk about the assets that we have in our people. A definition of an asset being a useful or valuable thing or person, and I think it's absolutely right to recognise the people within our team to do a great job, not just on the occasion, but day in and day out. I think the only issue that we will have, or the portfolio member will have, is how we pick these people to recognise them on a month-by-month basis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ritchie. And Councillor Hayes. No, sorry, your name's been added down by mistake there, so thank you very much for clarifying that.
Just Chairman, just to say thank you very much to all members who contributed to this and for their kind comments, which will make sure that officers are fully aware. I totally, once again, accept the full admonishment for the report, and we'll make sure we do a lot better next time. But once again, echoing with the point I made earlier, we are extremely fortunate. We're very thankful for our officers, and we congratulate them on the recognition they've given. And in response to you, Mr. Chairman, as Councillor Barsford said, yes, members can nominate officers for special recognition. I'll just clarify who's best to email on that and make sure a note goes around to all members. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. So, members, as this report is for noting, please indicate that the report has been noted by a show of hands. Thank you very much, members. That report has been noted. So, members, this item concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance and participation at this evening's meeting, and to those watching on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of this meeting will be published on the Council's YouTube channel as soon as possible. And members, please be reminded that the next full Council will be held on the 21st of July 2025 at 7:15 p.m. Calendar invites have been circulated. Thank you. And I will formally close this meeting of full Council at 9:08. Thank you, members. Have a good evening.